So, again, we're standing on a cliff. It says the ball is thrown straight down. Ooh. If I was clever, what would I do as soon as I saw the phrase straight down? What's negative? The 9.8 already is negative, Captain Obvious. What's the straight down here telling me? What's negative? I think I'm going to put a big negative right there. That's negative 26.5. Thank you very much. Yes? It hits the ground at the base of the cliff after 6.85 seconds. Cool. Caden, I know you're away, but don't panic. What's A asking me to find? What physics concept is it asking us to find then? And we're going to get a displacement. So I'm going to go D equals question mark. And if I were to dollop a little bit, Caden, if I was going to draw a little picture, I would say there's the cliff. And it looks like we're throwing it straight down, thump, and it's hitting the ground. I think initial is right there. Final is right there. Caden, looking at the picture, are we going to end up above or below from where we started? Am I expecting a positive or a negative answer here? I won't freak out if I get a negative. I'll relax. What else? Ooh, what's VI? Negative 26.5. What's that 6.85? That's two things. I need three things to find the fourth. Alisher, what else do I know, Captain Obvious? This was your cue. You just said it. More specific. What's negative 9.8? Time? What's negative 9.8? What word am I looking for that starts with letter A? Acceleration. Negative 9.8. Caden, is that three things? Then we're good. Looking for an equation. Caden has a D, a VI, a T, and an A in it. There is one. And bonus, the D's by itself already. I'll take that. Any of these zero? Nope. It's going to be negative 26.5 times 6.85 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 6.85 squared. I didn't do this one in my head. I'm remembering. I think you're going to get something in the negative 400s, if I recall. I think. What'd you get? And change, right? And some decimals, if I recall. So negative 411 meters. Now that's the displacement. I won't be this fussy, but Caden, did the question say find the displacement? No. It said how what? High. Height's technically a scalar, so if you're doing the homework, the answer I probably would have written next to this question, so you can check your work. I probably would have just written positive 411, because to me, in my brain, if I think height, it's a scalar. But if you gave me on a test the answer displacement equals negative 411 meters, I'd give you full credit. I'm fine with that. And I won't try and trip you up. I won't give you a multiple choice question that asks how high and has one answer negative 411 and one answer positive 411. I would feel comfortable if the question said, what is the displacement? And I had both the positive and negative answer. Then I expect you to clue in, no, I want the negative displacement. Yeah? Good. Ooh. Trevor, what's B want me to find? Which physics concept? Which physics concept in terms of the 5 we've been looking at in our equations? I'll give you a hint. We kind of just did it. Give me the vector version. We're going to find a displacement. You ready? After how many seconds? How long did it take to hit the ground from part A? Has it hit the ground yet, Ben? In part B? In part B, has it hit the ground yet? So I'm going to make a prediction already. First of all, it's below from where we started. I'm going to get a negative answer, but I think in magnitude, it's going to be smaller than 411. I don't know what, but if I get an answer either positive or bigger in magnitude than 411, I'm going to panic a little bit. In fact, I'm going to argue this is the same as part A. I'm going to go like this. D equals question mark. What can I still use? Is VI still negative 26.5? Is T still 6.85?
No.
Oh, what's T? Ah, okay. Alisher, is A still negative 9.8, Captain Obvious? Okay. Look up. Here's how lazy I am. If you know what? I should have typed this in, Mr. Dewick, from the previous question. Negative 26.5 times 6.85 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 6.85 squared. If I had done part A, I made a typo, Mr. Dewick, negative 26.5. If I had that sitting on my calculator, do you have a good calculator? I might notice, hey, wait a minute, it's going to be the same equation, except instead of a 6.85, what am I going to put in for time? If you can, this is your chance to figure out, can you backspace and bring up the previous equation and just put a 2 where the 6 is, delete the 8. Put a 2 where the 6 is, delete the 8. That's how I would do this question in my homework. I would not do it this way on a test or a quiz. I would write everything out, show all my equations, show all my steps, because I don't want to, in case I got part A wrong, I want to make sure I can still get part B right. But because I almost always give you the answers in your homework, you would know if you'd done part A wrong or not. If you're able to backspace and edit, I think you're going to get negative 98.6.9. If you can't and got to type from scratch, told you to get a better calculator. Well, such is life. You can probably bring back your previous line in your calculator. You might have to look at the manual to figure out how to do that. Most calculators will bring you back at least one line. I know the TIs actually have a memory stack of, I think, 30 operations. They'll remember your previous 30 lines. Casios, I don't know how far back they go. Is it negative 96.9? And that's meters. Trevor, does that match with our prediction? We said negative, we said not as big in magnitude as 411. Yeah, that seems about right. So I'm pretty sure it's right. You okay with that? Okay. Ooh. Joseph, what's C want me to find?
Yeah.
What is VF not equal to?
Yeah.
Okay, because trust me, if you fall off a cliff, I assure you, you won't hit the ground at 0, because if that was the case, you could fall off cliffs and be just fine. So, VF. Joseph, and now I'm showing you, Nick, where we can start to cut corners a little bit. I think I listed all of my data right here. I'm not going to relist it. Can you, I don't want to use the 2.5 though, because I think F is down here at 6.85. Joseph, can you find me an equation that's got a VF, a VI, a T, and an A in it? There probably is one. And the bonus is the VF is already by itself, yeah? So it's going to be negative 26.5 plus negative 9.8 times 6.85. Again, some predictions. Joseph, when it hits the ground, what direction is it traveling?
Down.
Okay. As it falls, will it speed up or slow down?
Yeah.
I'm expecting an answer bigger in magnitude than 26.5.
Yeah.
So, trying to give you little tricks of the trade so you can spot a typo, Daniel, if you make one, right? Yeah? Joseph, what'd you get? I think this is also in the negative 90s, isn't it? Wow, I hit a plus sign, a time sign instead of a plus sign. You say negative 93.6? I agree. Before we move to the next question, Meters per second, Mr. Duke. Before we move to the next question, we're at the stage now where, Ava, if you're feeling confident, I have no problem if you use an answer to find an answer or to check your answer. I might be tempted to check my answer by going VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. Chantel, how would I get the VF by itself in that equation? It is by itself. Alisher, no it's not, Captain Obvious. How do I get this? I don't know why I'm picking on you, but it adds, little atmospheres. How would I get rid of that squared? Actually, it's both sides. You're square rooting the left side, which just leaves you with the VF. Because remember, for equation solving, I also do the same thing to both sides of the equation. So I'm going to be fussy as a math nerd. By the way, put your pencils down, look up. What's that a symbol for? Why? Where does it come from? Right. Most of our notation comes from a German mathematician named Euler, if you say it in his, function notation. I know many of you are working through functions right now. I know many of you are not a fan. Function notation, hugely useful in calculus. Brilliant idea, brilliant invention. He gave us the concept of the exponent, meaning a power, repeated multiplication. He was very good at notation. He also gave us the square root sign. People used to write this. And then they started getting lazy. Instead of writing root 4, they would write R4. Do you see it? What does that look an awful lot like? Lowercase r. And then he introduced the idea of, Euler introduced the idea of, let's put an index there so you can put a cube root or a fourth root or a fifth root. And if we leave it blank, we understand it's a square root. So it comes from the German word for root, which also starts with an R. Little nerd trivia for you. Not on your test. So I'm going to get this. Square root of negative 26.5 squared plus 2 times negative 9.8. And I'll use that negative 411, Chantel, from answer A, which is a bit rounded off, but it should be pretty good. If I were to type this in, I should also get negative 93.6. Now, I have to type it in properly. It's going to be bracket negative 26.5, close bracket with the squared outside the bracket. Or, if I'm feeling particularly lazy, I could realize that that negative squared won't make a difference and skip typing it entirely. Plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 411. And Chantel, when I take the square root, I don't get negative 93.6. I get positive 93.6. Why? This is an issue with this equation specifically and how your calculators work. Chantel, what's the square root of 9? Or negative 3. They're both answers. Your calculator, Daniela, will always assume you want what's called the principal root, the positive root. And most of the time we do. This time we know, Nick, we want the negative square root, not the positive one, because we know it's going down. So if you're using that equation to find a velocity, Daniel, you will have to ask yourself at the end, negative or positive? On the way up, positive. On the way down, negative. So I'd still get negative 93.6. I have to add the negative myself, but the fact that I got the same answer using the negative 411, these are both right. Yeah? Good. Nick, what does it say in square brackets next to examples, in stars next to example 6? What was that? I like this question. Okay. Nick, read the question. What's the question asking me to find? This has 3 mini curveballs, and I'll walk you through them. Don't panic. But there's 3 little, ooh, that's sneaky, ooh, that's sneaky, ooh, that's sneaky. What's it asking us to find, first of all? Yes. Okay. What's that 18? What else do I know? And which is what? What? Captain Obvious? Okay. Alisher, what? Is it 9.8? Negative 9.8, right? Okay. You know what? Over off in the margin, let's do a little dollop. Let's draw a little picture. So I guess what we're talking about is we're throwing it up and it's going to come back down. So our initial is right there. Our final is right there. What else do I know? What haven't I used yet that the question gave me? Alisher, impress me. What? What is the displacement? It's not 82. What? Why? Did we end up below from where we started? So curveball number 1, I need to realize that although they gave me a cliff height, my equation demands a displacement, not a height. That's curveball number 1. You can see how it'll be easy to miss that. Nick, once you wrote that down, which equation has a T, a VI, an A, and a D in it? There is one. Yep. Keep going. Yep. Nick, what did you tell us we're trying to find? What's the problem with getting the T by itself here? How many T's are there in this equation? A T squared and a T. If A was 0, then you can get the T by itself. That's what we did in the distracted driving activity. If VI was 0, like when we dropped something, you can get the T by itself. Is A 0 in this equation? Say no. Is VI 0 in this equation? We can't solve this. So what I'd like you to, this is curveball number 2. This is the correct equation. All of you, if you want to, you can write a really nice, draw a thin line through it, an arrow pointing to it. Can't solve, and then if you want to, you can put in brackets, yet. Who are my grade 12s or math 12s? Okay. You might be able to, it's a quadratic. You would make it equal to 0 by moving the d over, and then you would use t equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4acl over 2a. But I can't assume the grade 11s have seen that, and especially some of these grade 11s will have math next semester. They'll never see it until the course is done. One of the reasons I'm not a fan of the semester system. So, curveball number 1, negative displacement, Nick. Curveball number 2, let's get back on track. Nick, do I know 3 things? Then I can find a 4th. Instead of time, what else could I find? Yes! Good. I knew you'd get that one. Let's all write down. This is our workaround to not knowing the quadratic formula. So to find VF, I want an equation that's got a VI, an A, a D, and a VF in it. There is one. You are absolutely correct. I want to get the VF by itself. It isn't quite by itself. I need to get rid of a squared. How to get rid of a squared? Yep. See how it's becoming kind of repetitive? I hope you're going, hey, I've seen this before, right? All right, Nick, we can do this. So it's going to be VF equals big square root of 18 squared plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 82 Don't need quite that much room, Mr. Duke. Try that on your calculator, Nick, and tell me what you get. Four, 5, 4, 2, 0, 6, 9. Why is that wrong? You got the same thing. Yeah, it's wrong. Why? Okay, this again, Nick, is that situation when it hits the ground, when the ball hits the ground, which way is it traveling? I know this, my calculator doesn't. It assumed that I wanted the positive square root. This time I want the negative square root, so I'm going to have to insert the negative. So I'm going to go negative 43.945. Meters per second. How does that help me? Now, Nick, what do we want to find in the very first place? Oh, that's curveball number 3, by the way, the negative. So curveball number 1, you got to add the negative to the displacement. Curveball number 2, this won't work. Find VF. Curveball number 3, add the negative. I have VF, VI, A, ignore D, T. Which equation has those 4 in it? Yes. Loud and proud. Say it again. See it, folks? Get the T by itself. Let's see if we can do that, because that's what we're trying to find. Yeah. Is that my final answer? So I don't round off to 3 until my final. In fact, I'm going to try using my answer button here if I can. Good question. Nick, is it VF minus VI? T equals VF minus VI over A. Is that right? Yeah. In fact, Julian, here's how I'm going to type this. My answer button right now has a positive 43.9. I want negative. On my calculator, I'm actually going to go negative answer button minus 18 all over negative 9.8. That's what I'm going to type into my calculator. And that way I don't have to worry about rounding off or anything. That would be what I would have gotten if I'd used the quadratic formula. For those of you who know the quadratic formula. Bracket, negative answer button, minus 18, close off the top, divided by negative 9.8, and I get 6.32 seconds. Nick, did I say I like this question, I like this question, I like this question? Did you get that? Or on the final step, you're looking like it zigged? Did you zig? Well, probably. But the question is what? Don't clear your calculator. I'll come look at it in a second. I do consider this fair game because each step, there's nothing new. Have we found VF before using VF squared equals VI squared plus 2? Yes. Have we had to add the negative before? Yes. Have we had to make distances into displacements before? Yes. Have we had to pivot away from an equation and find something? Yes. So all those steps to me are fair game. Let me pause the video for 1 second. By the way, Math 12s, this is an alternative to the quadratic formula. There are some countries that don't teach the quadratic formula. They teach, if you did this purely algebraically, you can solve a quadratic without actually doing the quadratic formula. With the quadratic formula, though, you would have got 2 answers. You would have got a positive 6.32, and you would have got a negative time, a negative answer. And so you would have rejected the negative answer because time can't be negative. You would have rejected it like Jet trying to dunk. Reject. Right? Okay. Truth hurts, but yeah. Okay. Andrew, what's A asking me to find? Okay. What else do I know? What is the displacement, my friend? Don't say 360. How do I know? Because we're on a cliff. Now, that's only the case when it's a cliff, because we're ending up below from where we started. Okay? What else do I know? What else do I know? Is? Good. Which equation? Yep. What are we trying to get by itself? How? Good. Go systematic. Then what? You got this. Yep. And I'll go 0.5 AT squared, so I'll have a fraction inside of a fraction. Yep. Told you had this. That equals VI. Remember how terrifying this was a couple of weeks ago? Now, look at you. You're doing big boy things. Soon you can use the big fork and knife and sit at the grown-ups table. It's going to be negative 360 minus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 6 squared. This question is a bit interesting, Andrew, because over 6. I don't know whether VI is going to be positive or negative. They might have thrown this down off the cliff and it hit the ground after 6 seconds. They might have thrown it up and then it went past me and hit the ground after 6 seconds. I'm doing some quick math in my head. I think you're going to get a negative answer, but don't quote me on it. Well, do a little math in your head, Mr. Dewick. It's going to be roughly half of 360. Yeah, I think you're going to get a negative answer. Do you get a negative answer? So I guess this was thrown downwards. What'd you get? Oh, and I think it works out bang even, right? To no yucky decimals after the 6. Okay. Well done. One more, Presley, and we're done. Presley, what's B want me to find? VF. What's it not? Not 0. Again, if it was 0, you could stand on your lab table and belly flop onto the cement and it wouldn't hurt. So it wants me to find VF. And I guess I have D equals negative 360. A is still negative 9.8. Is time still 6? I think so, yeah, because it's fallen for 6 seconds. I'm looking for an equation that's got a VF, a D, an A, and a T in it. Presley, it's a trick question. Is there an equation that has a VF, a D, an A, and a T in it? So I saved this for last to say, okay, now we're at the stage where I'm fine if you have to find something in order to find something, or use a previous answer from part A. And I'm going to start doing that on quizzes and tests as well. Here, this won't help me. There's no equation. But wait a minute. I can use that. So now, Presley, I'm going to say to you, find me an equation with a VF, and then it can have any one of these in it. And do me a favor, try and find the easiest one with the least amount of work, because we're lazy and organized. I would use VF equals VI plus AT. You could also use D equals bracket VI plus VF close bracket times T over 2, get the VF by itself. You could also use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD, although that one, when you took the square root, you'd probably have to add the negative. So absolutely, Presley, I would go with... And I would use my answer from Andrew plus negative 9.8 times 6. I would say I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a negative answer. What'd you get? 89.4? Negative? So the message there, Ava, is if you are suddenly going, I don't know if I can find it, you've learned enough physics now, and I think most of you are good enough now. Well, find something else and see if that helps you find what you want. Because as long as you got 3 things, you can find a 4th. It may not be the 4th one that you wanted, but once you have all 4, then you can find 5. Is that okay? What's your homework? A lot of questions. In fact, it's going to be easier to cross out questions than circle questions. But you're going to have most of tomorrow and a big chunk of Friday to work on this too. So what is your homework? I'll tell you which ones to cross out. So you can put a star next to number 4. I haven't talked about number 4. I want to deliberately see if you can look at number 4, stare at it, aha! And have the aha moment and figure it out yourself. Joseph is awake now. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first one you can cross out, number 9. Or as I like to say, 9. Roberto Luongo. Oh, I think the Canucks are finally done paying him, I think, right? Because he signed like a 20-year contract or something ridiculous. So you can cross out number 9. Put a star next to 10D. I haven't talked about that one yet. I'll talk about that one in class tomorrow, probably Friday. I'll let you whittle away at it for a bit. Cross out 11, please. Cross out 14, please. Put a star next to number 16. I haven't talked about that yet. $14 you crossed out. Star next to 16, cross out 17. That's a lot. You're going to find they start to get somewhat repetitive. Oh, someone asked me this morning, if you look at number 2, which is a piano question. Mr. Dewick, why did they give me the mass of the piano? To distract you. You don't need it. That 350 is just an extra number to make you panic. Okay? You can probably, I don't think you can fit these in onto this piece of paper unless you write crazy small. So you probably want to do these on a separate piece of paper. You got the remainder of class. And I haven't showed you any of the wingsuit videos yet, have I? I showed you one? Okay. I thought you were the class I hadn't showed. Maybe it was a different class.